Good morning and welcome to Talking Point on WESN, the Continental Capital. I'm Keaton Shaw. Friday, the 25th of March 2022. And as we continue the discussions as to the latest happenings here in Trinidad and Tobago, this morning my co-host and I, we will be giving an update on the relations between Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana. It seems as though the bridge or the divide has gotten longer and farther. Then later on we will also be discussing the Police Service Commission as they have come out with new regulations in terms of the qualifications and the necessary experience needed in order to hold the position of Commissioner of Police and Deputy Commissioner of Police. And then later on in the program we will welcome our commentator for this morning, Senator Jayanti Lakshmi. But in the meantime, let me introduce my co-host, colleague and good friend, Mr. Sean Michael Small. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Keaton. And one story that's, again, I hope will not die, and I feel as though in the national media and the national narrative, it teeters on the brink of kind of being forgotten, which is ironic because it is nowhere near resolution, is the situation with the Police Service Commission and the fact that, so they've made some minor changes. It might not have been the main thing that kept Gary out of consideration, but it obviously prevents a scenario that allowed him to be commissioner to be replicated again, because you need 10 to 15 years of increasing responsibility in law enforcement. That's very specific. You need to rise through the ranks, something that the former commissioner, ironically, he's a former commissioner, but he doesn't have that law enforcement experience. He was in the Defense Force. Maybe you could make a claim that being in the Ministry of National Security in any capacity will give you some relevant experience to qualify, but that might potentially take a judge to say that, because traditionally Defense Force personnel is not seen to be equivalent experience to police personnel. The rules are different. But that is just a minor thing. The main point is, so they're giving this out now. It seems to be, okay, we don't want to repeat what happened with Gary and close that door. Meanwhile, we're no closer to getting a commissioner, and it's been, 6 to 8 months now?
Well, arguably we are one step closer. I mean, no specific dates. The post has not been advertised as yet, but the Police Service Commission did, state new regulations that they will require the candidates or the prospective candidates to have in order to possibly achieve that particular position. And we can actually discuss that now, Sean. First of all, let us mention that the Prime Minister did mention the police service of Trinidad and Tobago on Tuesday when he spoke at his meeting in San Fernando. And by extension, he also mentioned the former Commissioner of Police, Gary Griffith. The new regulations, Sean, as you would have mentioned before we came on air, it seems as though it puts a further stake in the prospects of the former Commissioner of Police actually being able to apply for the position.
Yeah, but I mean, it took 4 months. It took 4 months to get this part, and they were not, according to reports, it's not as though they had to create it from scratch. They were making these things based on previous policy, including, I believe, and you had to remind me, some updates that seem to have been to ensure that Commissioner Griffith was not allowed to come with regards to your contract status, I think it was, or the removal of some of the language from, basically the legal notice that had some of the language that allowed for Commissioner Griffith's application. This, I guess, seals the nail in the coffin for whatever wiggle room that there was or arguments that could be made. But it took 4 months, almost, maybe 3.5, to get to this point. We don't have a commissioner. Like, why is it taking so long? I understand bureaucracy is supposed to move slow. Not necessarily that's designed to move slow, but it just happens, that's how things work. But at the same time, 3 months to just say, okay, we've updated the rules. So then if it takes 3 months to update the rules, is it going to take another 6 months to actually then compile a list? Well, or 3 months to compile a list, 6 months to deliberate the list?
Possibility is that based off of the legal advice that they were receiving, who knows what that would have been. I'm not making an excuse because I'm in total agreement with you. I mean, this is the reason why we rushed to create a new police service commission in the first place.
Yes.
So I completely understand. But let's now just inform you the view of the latest from the police service commission in terms of the new regulations that they put in place. This includes that the individual must have no less than 15 and 10 years experience of increasing responsibility in law enforcement, respectively. Possession of a master's degree from a university recognized by the ministry responsible for higher education in any of the following: law, criminal justice, criminology, police service management, or any other relevant degree. And finally, the Secretariat has the responsibility to determine whether a master's degree can be considered a relevant degree for the purpose of these legal notices falls under the Police Service Commission's purview of, and I quote, or any entity authorized to assist the Commission in the conduct of its recruitment exercise, end quote. Or any entity authorized to assist the Commission in the conduct. Who determines which entity is very much authorized to assist the Commission? Because if that is the case, could the entity now say, okay, we are authorizing the Ministry of National Security, or let's just say the Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs to assist us in now actually processing the new positions?
Well, to some extent, yes, maybe you could have somebody in tertiary education to help qualify, okay, these degrees are supposed to have these sort of qualifications. Because generally speaking, degrees, yes, if I do a degree in different institutions, it could be the same degree. There may be minor differences from what individuals are taught, but generally speaking, it should have certain minimums of certain information, techniques, knowledge being passed over, right, and processes. So maybe, as I said, a tertiary education institution to just ensure that the Service Commission knows, okay, this degree does contain X, Y, and Z. The person is supposed to have been educated in X, Y, and Z. How relevant it is here. And then, of course, they could help compare and contrast, okay, is it enough? Does it meet the qualifications? Because they could put out, they know what they want, but they don't necessarily know the complete, with complete accuracy, what every single degree from every single institution is going to have there. So part of it could be just to have somebody who will know exactly how to, I mean, you could contact the institution itself, but then depending, you could get runarounds, or there might be administration bogged down or whatever, but somebody to just fill in that role, it might seem like a minor thing.
Well, one citizen has actually commented on this. A couple of citizens, I'm looking at the comments, and one of the comments on the part of the citizens is, what kind of craziness is this? A police officer is promoted based on seniority and performing up to the level of ACP. He's trained by his management at the Joint Services Staff College. This college now falls under COSTAT. While they continue to train him there, the Police Service Commission now wants him to suddenly get a master's degree for higher promotion. How is he supposed to do that? I'll tell you how. He no longer does any work and goes to school to get his degree just to get promoted. He never takes no pay for study leave.
I'm not sure if you need to not work in order to get your master's. It depends. Perhaps this is an area where the TTPS should be giving people some amount of extra time to get a master's. Regardless, I don't know, I can't remember if there's anything in regards to contract status and employment status of the TTPS that's saying that for the commissioners has to be a TTPS employee or an employee of the Ministry of Security. Law enforcement experience could come from anywhere around the world. So they might be leaving the door open for what we saw last time with former Commissioner Gibbs. You get someone with experience and a master's.
Actually, you remember one of the arguments that were made last year is that we no longer want any individual from abroad to apply for the position. That was one of the arguments last year. But in relation to what this citizen is stating, I can tell you that you do not need to take time off in order to complete your master's.
Right.
For example, at the University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus, just as an example, you have classes part-time which means that classes actually start after working hours. They start between 5 and 6. You do your evening classes. After work, you go there, you get it done, and you do it over a period of 2 to 3 years for your masters. And that's the thing. It's not something that needs to be done while taking
and in
time off
other
work.
fields, because I know people I know who did not take time off from their job, all right, and they were able to do their masters while working, as well as being a parent. So I mean, of multiple children. So it all depends.
I'll give you an example. One of my former teachers actually continued classes as normal, carried out his duties as a teacher as normal, and didn't even do a master's. He did a full law degree part-time.
Now, technically speaking, at least I know in the military, you get deployed for different duty assignments. It could be to, if it's say American military or European military, you might have a foreign assignment where it might be a specific base in a specific part of your country. We have multiple bases. We don't necessarily have too many foreign deployments, only for like disaster relief and so forth, or a training exercise. But one of the rotations could be to further the individual's education, because they realize if we want people at higher ranks to take on command of larger and larger assets, larger and larger units, they need to have management education, management, not just management, but also administration. They need to know how to do certain things beyond just, well, I'm a soldier, because your responsibilities grow. The Commissioner of Police is not just a police officer. He needs to know how to conduct cases, but it can't just be that. Law enforcement at the ground level is just the start. That's why it's an increasing level of responsibilities, because they want him to have experience at multiple levels of law enforcement so that he'll know what the various people under his command are going through. But he does also have to have management qualifications, because essentially with the amount of stations that are technically under the commissioner, right, as well as the personnel for all those stations, it's not just to meet the law enforcement needs of the community, it's also for the maintenance of those stations. Manpower management, financial management, not just maintenance, but investment for new capabilities and technologies. These are a lot of things. At that level, it's as much as a business as it is an entity for some other purpose. And if you fall down too much on that administrative business management side, you're going to see deficiencies in the overall situation, because those skills are going to be force multipliers for your entire police force. Otherwise, he's just going to be another guy that's going to say, well, investigate this, don't investigate that. Now, that doesn't offer any value at that seat, at that position.
Now, this obviously more or less actually now, disregards and doesn't allow the former Commissioner of Police to apply for the position, obviously. But a couple of things. First of all, Gary Griffith does have experience in law enforcement, and I'm also reading here that he does have a master's. Let me just get it for you. He does have a master's in security management from the Department of Criminology at the University of Leicester in the United Kingdom. Now, he has that particular qualification, and the one that really now pushes him out of the running is that you have to have 10 to 15 years of experience.
Yeah, because he doesn't have experience of trying to tackle crime on the ground as an officer. Then he doesn't have experience as a supervisor. What are the supervisors, the first level supervisors going through? The head of a police station going through? All of these things matters, because he essentially has to be able to tell them when they're making mistakes and to discipline them.
It makes me wonder, why appoint Gary Griffith in the first place as Commissioner of Police?
His appointment was always unorthodox, because you almost never, and by almost never, I'm just saying that because I don't really know of any other situation where it happened. Globally, politically, you do not take a step back, right? The general of the army is not just going to come back and say, oh, I'm going to come out of retirement to be the general of this small division. Right? The president of a country is not going to say, you know what, I'm going to come back into public service to be the head diplomat or to be the Secretary of State. Right? It's not as though Obama or Bill Clinton or either of the George Bushes came back because they were president. There was no other role. They're not going to come back to a lesser role. He was Minister of National Security / National Security Advisor. By coming back as Commissioner of Police, he's taking a subservient role to his former position. That technically does put any Minister of National Security in an awkward spot. because he has knowledge and information and experience at that level.
No,
But ironically,
you can make an argument that's a good thing.
It could cause issues with regards to chain of command, but also he does not have the relevant information, experience of his foundation. So he's coming in without the insights that the Minister of National Security needs from his police commissioner. He's coming in as a former Minister of National Security.
He hasn't held the position at all for 10 to 15 years. He hasn't even had close to 5 years of experience. But
Now,
could he make the argument that holding the post of former commissioner, being appointed as former commissioner, could he make that argument that yes, indeed, I can still apply for this position? I mean, this is now stated regulations, but I'm wondering if an argument can be made that I've held that position. I have the experience
technically
of being commissioner of police.
Technically, you can make the argument. I don't think the commission will accept it. If he wants to take it through the court and have a judge make a ruling, the judge potentially, but he would have to prove how his 3 years is equivalent. Because like I said, yeah, a lot of good businesses, the boss will have a fair understanding of what everybody does underneath him. It's not as though he could do the job perfectly, but how many people that work out there have a boss that has no idea what it is, the job that you do for them is, and the boss criticizes you, and you know the boss is wrong, but the boss is wrong and strong and stubborn.
Well,
you want to avoid that in this case. You don't want a commissioner that's like, hey, you're doing this wrong. It's like, you didn't do the task. You weren't there. You've never come up the ranks. So it's not impossible. It's not to say that Gary Griffith is not capable of making correct management decisions. It's just unlikely.
Well, I know one individual who is really going to be happy with this, and that is Inspector Anna Ramasa, whose injunction in the first place was the fact that he was not allowed to be on the part of the recruitment process. He was no longer invited and his name didn't make the merit list. He argued that he had the necessary experience and all the relevant qualifications, and just based off of this now, he certainly seems to be one of the better candidates, just using the names of the merit list that existed before, the one that was scrapped actually.
So ironically, because I think this was a case where I always wondered, yes, he has experience, but what is the experience in the TPS? And I think the key with the statement is, let me get the correct wording. Basically, what it says, increasing responsibility in law enforcement. You could be in the TTPS, but not necessarily have, your rank could rise. You could be in one side department. I'm not saying this is the case with the gentleman, with the inspector, right? But I'm saying it doesn't mean that just anybody who is in the TTPS for 10 to 15 years will qualify. Yeah. Even if they have a high rank, I think they need to have experience at multiple levels. And generally what you're looking for is success at multiple levels, right? And the TTPS does not necessarily promote on merits. So saying that somebody who is at a ACP position does not necessarily mean they saw great success at multiple levels. It's again, I'm not saying that ACPs are bad, but based on what we know how promotions happen, that's a reasonable argument to make that it can be the case that certain senior people do not have the experience in the right way that the commission is looking for. If that is the intention of the commission. I could be assuming things that the commission has not even thought of, but I would like to think that is the case. That is essentially their job, just to think of these things.
Well, just to give you Anna Ramasa, he is the former president of the Police Services Welfare Association. He is also the holder of a master's degree in criminology, and he says he is motivated to apply given the support by peers and colleagues within and external to the organization. He wants to get back to all policing,
and he should. We need as many people to apply as possible.
He wants all policing methods that have existed before in conjunction with new technologies. He's stating that that can work. He says one of the major issues that we've had is no new technology within the TTPS. So fair enough. I mean, the latest technology within the TTPS was body cams, but how often is that even utilized?
Well, it's now from what I understand, it's not. They were debating it in Parliament a couple of weeks ago with regards to the 1,000 cameras.
They were debating this in Parliament since 2016, as far as I remember.
Right, but I believe that they now got it, like they now got a shipment of 1,000 in recently. And questions about it rather was posed to the Minister of National Security, I believe. So that and all is taking too long Usually, new technology takes a while, but it's taking too long.
Anyway, folks, that's the latest coming out of the Police Service Commission. It's a topic that we here in Talking Points are quite passionate about. We've been following over the course of the last 6 to 8 months, and I know Sean Michael Small specifically has kept an eye on this. But for now, we're going to take a break here on the program, and when we return, we're going to take a look at CARICOM, more so keeping a microscopic view on the relationship between Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana that has taken a further step back, and the division between both nations are now extended. So when we return, we will examine the latest. Stay tuned to the program here on WESN, the Content Capital.
Say hello to the newest way to access eye care support. Say hello to Ferrera Optical Virtual Care. For the first time in TNT, you can now connect from the convenience of your home with our team of eye care professionals online. Need guidance on a vision problem or adapting to new eyewear? Book a virtual visit via FerreraOptical.com using our smart scheduler, and we'll take care of the rest. Ferrera Optical Virtual Care, connecting with you wherever you are.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Burning questions, urgent topics. Welcome back to One on One, the show where we tackle the most current and pertinent subjects that are affecting all citizens, where we ask the hard questions and have in-depth conversations. What separates One on One from other talk shows is that the conversation stems from a younger perspective on topics that affect the fabric of our society. One on One, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. on WESN Content Capital.
Let your voice be heard. Call Madam Fix It on WESN, the only place that effectively helps you with your woes. Having problems getting onto government agencies, water woes, NIS and pension problems, potholes, and much, much more. Call me, Madam Fix It, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right here on WESN. Let me fix it for you.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is it no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Welcome back to Talking Point here on WESN. Now, opinions are divided as to the latest comments by the Vice President of Guyana, Barra Jagdeo, in relation to their oil and gas sector. I say divided because we have the opinions of the Minister of Foreign Affairs. He has expressed very diplomatically his thoughts on the matter, stating that he had to remind Minister of Foreign Affairs from Guyana about the relationship between Trinidad and Tobago, and he spoke specifically on the historical agreements and participations of the two nations within CARICOM. But then we have the opinions of political scientists, and we have the opinions of citizens, who some are expressing outrage while others are stating, well, he's just taking a lesson out of the mistakes of Trinidad and Tobago, and he is also just speaking of the realities that we're in. I'm not going to give away anything that he said because we do have the clip for you to view this morning. Sean, this now puts a further stake in the relations between Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana.
Not just that, it also reveals what people outside of the country think what's going on with Trinidad. And this could be a clue to outside investors. Now, maybe this is someone who is, how do I put it? It might not be exactly what investors think, but maybe it starts to influence what investors think. Because right now, what's our main international sector? The energy sector. What's Guyana's main international sector now? The energy sector. Right now, the president, he has made repeated calls of working with Trinidad, but maybe the vice president now, he's seeing, for whatever reason, he has a reason to make a job. But the job is not, I mean, we don't have the full context, but there is some context with what he had to say. So maybe we could just run the clip and continue the discussion after.
We want to invest some of the oil and gas resources into building the infrastructure so the non-oil and gas sector in the future can generate the jobs. Because if we don't do that, when the oil money grows, we'll be poorer than many countries in the world. Look what's happening in Trinidad now. Trinidad is falling apart, and that's putting it mildly. Falling apart. No jobs, no sustained periods of negative growth. Can't see the light of day for the nearest future. For the near future.
So, I mean, he's looking at the economic situation. I actually initially thought, when I just heard that he made these comments, I actually initially wondered if he was speaking with regards to the political situation. Now, economics and politics
Which is not unfair.
are somewhat tied, right? Because it's not as though there was new economic news, right? And I'm not too sure if I agree with him per se, because, and maybe he wasn't necessarily saying, hey, Trinidad is doing a bad job. Look how bad of a job they're doing, right? A lot of our economic woes come from the pandemic, and a lot of nations are on their back foot because of the pandemic. And for the most part, you might want to say, yes, the government did this, that, wrong, and the other. But we more or less were in line with the general philosophies. And you could argue we came out of it relatively to the rest of the world fine. There are a lot of things that are not in our control, such as global inflation and cost of food, lack of tourism and travel, etc., that is potentially harming us. But I mean, I'm not too sure what else the VP had to say, because he was speaking with regards to regional cooperation, I believe, this week. And this is very interesting for him to say that in this week.
Now, first of all, Guyana is no bed of roses, and this does not do much for the relationship once more, as I've mentioned before. But something to bear in mind, his comments could have been made a lot more diplomatically. He could have said it a lot better, but he was blunt, to say the least, and he was straightforward. Now, was he wrong or inaccurate to state what he did? Not necessarily. It's hard to make the argument that Trinidad and Tobago is not falling apart with what we're seeing. As my co-host points out, there are a lot of things that were not in our control, but then again, there are things that are in our control. And do we help our situation down here? Now, we don't necessarily know exactly who he was speaking to, who was his audience, because to foreign investors, that speaks a lot. Is he taking a lesson out of the mistakes that Trinidad and Tobago has made? Because he has pointed out that, listen, we need to use our oil and gas revenues to ensure that we invest. And not only do we invest, but we expand and diversify, so that if ever the oil and gas runs out, because someday it will, we will ensure that our economy is robust enough, diverse enough to continue progressing, expanding, and ensure that it is sustainable. That being said, this does not really help the situation. Now, we know that the Prime Minister was unable to make the energy conference in Guyana a couple of weeks ago simply because he said it didn't fit into his schedule. He had the trip to Qatar the following week, but he did indicate that the relevant ministries as well as business agencies in Trinidad and Tobago did attend. They had a strong delegation. Was that enough? I don't think it was enough of a justification to not go. But furthermore, apart from oil and gas, there's a lot more opportunities. For example, the President of Guyana, as I pointed out yesterday, he himself has argued that Trinidad and Tobago has opportunity, and there are possibilities that can come out of Trinidad and Tobago if they partner with Guyana, especially in terms of manufacturing.
yes, we have opportunity because we have a certain level of expertise and experience that we are just not leveraging. Now, are we falling apart? I really want to push back on that idea. Yes, things are not as good as it should be, but I would argue that really and truly, it's not as though this is a phenomenon, all of a sudden we're falling apart. We have more or less had a status quo that's been maintained ever since the oil and gas prices dropped around 2014. So I'm not entirely sure exactly the doom and gloom message. I don't think employment is necessarily that bad off right now relative to how it's been for the last several years. Relative to other places in the world.
Saved yourself using that word, John, relative. But in all fairness, I mean, we have to be fair here, and let's be real. I mean, this not only puts a strain on a further division within CARICOM, because these are two CARICOM member states and perhaps the two biggest trading partners within CARICOM at this point. Jamaica probably has slipped into third. But with all that, there are issues here, ladies and gentlemen, that we have to keep focused on. Is it because of Trinidad and Tobago's reluctance to do business with Guyana? Or was it Guyana's initial reluctance to ensure that Trinidad and Tobago didn't have any influence on its oil and gas market? Exactly what is it? I mean, was the Prime Minister's outburst in Parliament on Wednesday having anything to do with this? Or furthermore, was the Prime Minister not being able to attend the energy conference a sign of how the relationship is disintegrating? Because again, let's be realistic and fair. The Prime Minister is not doing much to build any bridges between Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana. He's not really doing much at this point. So comments like this may not be deemed as unfair, but they are not necessary. As I said, it could have been expressed a lot more diplomatically because, as my co-host pointed out, I go back to what he said, I said it, the strain on the relationship between Trinidad and Guyana, but he's also pointed out that this could show externally the opinions and views of the current status of Trinidad and Tobago and its economy. And if international investors and foreign investors see this, then it doesn't paint a brighter picture. Again, I go back. What have we done as in Trinidad and Tobago to ensure that we lure and we sell this country to foreign investors?
There is another consideration, and that is with regards to the local politics of Guyana. I'm not sure if the VP shares the same sentiment as his president with regards to having closer ties to Trinidad, because that same expo that the Prime Minister missed in Guyana, both the Prime Minister and the President remarked that the private entities from TNT had a good showing there. The Prime Minister basically said, well, you know, we had a good private representation and that was good enough. The President of Guyana, he complimented the showing of the private sector and he was happy for that. Of course, you and I probably would have preferred if the Prime Minister at least, you know, went there in person for a meeting, did a phone call, something to try to get the ball of more rolling, because in other industries, yes, we might have private interests going there, but those are private interests. That doesn't really help with infrastructure development and long-standing relationship. Our local industries are lacking for government leadership and investment in infrastructure to support it. However, the flip side is, back to what I was saying, the internal politics in Guyana. Maybe the Vice President does not necessarily want them to rely on TNT for any sort of assistance with regards to technical expertise, skilled labor, etc.
Now, as a Trinidadian, you should always stand up. Trinbagonian, and thank you for correcting me. As a Trinbagonian, you must always stand up for your country. You must always support your country. But in supporting your country, you must also recognize where we're falling short and where we can improve and what we can do better. So the question I'm asking to those viewing this program this morning, when we open up the phone lines, please, you are free to comment on whatever you'd like. In fact, if you have great news, as we always say on Friday, share it with us. But was the Vice President's comments unfair? What about it was untrue? Was any of it a lie? Or did he just bluntly state facts? Do you think he could have been more diplomatic? That's a lot of questions, but so I'll boil it down into one. Let's just say, was he unfair? And if so, what did he say that was unfair? What did he say was a lie. As I said, you have to stand up for Trinidad and Tobago, but Sean, does the truth hurt? Does the truth hurt?
Well, it goes back to what I said. The irony is he's not necessarily saying anything new. There's been a global pandemic. What do you want? What more do you want? Does it mean that we have nothing to offer Guyana, that there's nothing to offer investment? I mean, other countries are in the same situation we're in, and yet investment and business opportunities are opening up. It's just not necessarily due to rising growth periods. Now you're trying to find opportunities in different ways. And again, it's hard ultimately to know what his end game goal here is, because I tried to look for the whole clip, the whole speech that he gave, and I wasn't able to find it last night. But it is unnecessary, ultimately. Does the truth hit? But it stings.
Guyana is no bed of roses by any means. Guyana is no bed of roses, but they're certainly pulling rank on us now. Now, as we end this particular comment, we withheld this video. Just as we end this off, I like citizens to see this, to see what I'm talking about, where the president of Guyana came to Trinidad and Tobago in December of last year and actually had to inform us of the opportunities that we have. So this is where we'll end things off. You'll see the video now. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll continue the discussions with our guest commentator this morning. Sean?
Yeah, just the Guyana VP. Well, he spoke at the, I believe, TNT Manufacturing Association's meeting, and then he also gave comments, as I said, at the summit that our Prime Minister missed.
Trinidad and Tobago has the capacity to become a major processing, packaging, and manufacturing hub for food. Food that is an hour and a half, 2 hours away from your facility.
The CARICOM region continues to be a significant export destination for our products, valued at approximately $8 billion per year over the past 5 years. And this certainly underscores the importance of building stronger bilateral relationships with countries such as Guyana and helping to drive the implementation of the Caribbean single market and economy, which continues to be a top priority for Trinidad and Tobago.
This conference was privately organized. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs was asked to work with the foreign delegation, and invitations were sent to almost all the heads, including Trinidad. So I don't know where this concern is coming from. Trinidad was invited at all levels. Trinidad is an active part of what we're doing here. Look at a number of investors from Trinidad who are here. And they're playing an active role, an active part. We welcome investors, and we welcome greater collaboration with Trinidad and Guyana. We have no issues with collaborating. We have a strong relationship at the national level and at the private sector level. And we are encouraging investment. A number of Trinidad companies operate here. A number of Trinidad companies are partnering with local companies. A high percentage of the attendees at the conference came from Trinidad. A number of the exhibitors are from Trinidad. We've always had a dynamic relationship, a close relationship, and we don't see any issues.
Gift giving during a lockdown can still be hassle-free with a gift from FanZone with delivery options available nationwide. Visit and browse our Facebook and Instagram pages for all your official licensed merchandise and apparel and have it delivered to your door. Find us on Facebook and Instagram. FanZone, we've got you covered.
The best for your baby is at dbesttoys.com. We have the best strollers, car seats, walkers, feeding accessories, playpens, cribs, clothing, and the widest range of brand name toys like Barbie, Hot Wheels, Nerf, LOL, Fisher-Price, Cocomelon, Intex Pools, Amazon Fire tablets, HP and Gateway laptops, and the best bikes, scooters, skateboards, and ride-on. Visit us in-store at Southern Main Road, McBean, or shop online now at dbesttoys.com. That's dbesttoys.com. We have the best toys at the best prices.
you live with someone who's tested positive for COVID-19 and has to self-isolate at home, take care of them from a distance and reduce their movement around the house. Give them space, a designated space, and open those windows. If you have to be in contact, mask up, both of you. If you work, stay home from work and don't go out, not even to the grocery or pharmacy. And remember, no visitors allowed. Limit the contact to limit the spread.
The Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross Society. Mission-based, people-focused, community-driven.
Welcome back to Talking Point. Now joining us via Zoom is Senator Jhansi Lakshmi. Good morning, Senator.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
We're doing well. We hope you're well. Thank you for joining us.
Sure.
Now, Senator, what was supposed to be a peaceful march highlighting the issues that are currently plaguing Trinidad and Tobago turned into something of, well, it seems to be rowdy when the United National Congress and ex-Carney Workers 1975 Limited clashed in Chaguanas. As we get into this conversation, could you just, tell us, as well as Nation, your first-hand account of the events that unfolded that day?
Okay, well, the women's arm of the UNC have planned a series of marches, I would call them. As you know, part of what started off as the October Revolution, we call it now the People's Revolution, it's really getting back on the ground in light of, COVID restrictions and so on being raised. You are now able to go back into the street, connect with people, and highlight issues and demand accountability from the government. So you would see people, for example, with placards in front of the parliament, and there are specific issues that, for example, the women's arm chose to pick up. One of them was held just after the Carnival weekend in Pinal, at the Pinal market, and that issue was rising food prices. The following week, there was the issue of the Commission of Inquiry, which is yet to get off the ground in relation to the Paria incident, and demanding justice for the divers and, of course, more so for their families, because, of course, there are 4 widows and children left behind. So the women's arm of the UNC felt that this was an issue that we wanted to speak about in light, of course, of developments with respect to the changes being made to the composition of the commission, nothing really being done just yet for the to get that commission of inquiry off the ground. Whilst we were there, and a couple of our MPs were addressing the crowd, specifically, I think MP Rudy Indar Singh was speaking. A group that was standing to one side, and we weren't telling them anything, they were standing to one side, but they decided that because the media had focused on MP Indar Singh, that they would then converge on the gathering and push their way to the front of the media and obstruct MP Indar Singh from continuing his speech, and basically place placards with criticisms of the opposition and specifically the political leader over the placards that were made by UNC, Women's Arm, and other supporters calling for justice for the Paria divers and so on. And it began where it was basically a whole lot of people trying to get in front of a very small space. You're in media, you understand how media set up around someone who's speaking. So you basically have some cameras and people with phones, someone with a photograph camera, a microphone, standing, listening to MP Indar Singh, and then all of these people just shoving their way in front and putting their placards up so that their placards could be seen by the media. At that point in time, one of our other MPs basically asked them to move, started to sort of try to, and then some of our supporters tried to do the same thing by basically shifting them out of the way so that they don't obstruct. When I say shifting them out of the way, trying to come between them now and our MPs so that they don't obstruct what is going on. We are basically having a press conference, for want of a better word, an unplanned press conference on the street. And, it began just basically pushing and tugging and shoving. So the UNC MPs, MP Vandana had the loudspeaker in her hand. She directed everyone to start walking away. Of course, our supporters are there chanting, trying to drown them out because they're shouting at us as well and screaming, things about the opposition and the political leader and whatever. And typical, sour grapes tabanka for office behavior. And our supporters began sort of drowning them out and saying, listen, this is the focus of our protest here today. It is about the PNM, it is Rowley must go, it's justice for the pariah divers, etc., etc. So MP asked us to move away, and we began moving down the street and back to the Nagar site, at which point they started following us and still trying to get into and mix into our thing.
Well,
and
Senator, let me just ask, because what I don't understand, so the first thing that I had a problem with here, because there's more than one issue I have here, but the first thing I have is, just why were they protesting against your protest? Why did they come to counter-protest? Because it's been 6 years since the UNC, 6 or 7 years since the UNC was out of government. So if they wanted a resolution to their problem, one of the things we say is, well, we can only criticize the government because the government is the one that sets policy, with regards to policy. So the opposition doesn't really have the power to exercise. What did they give any reason?
No, they did not give any reason. But I will tell you the reason. The reason is that the 2 or 3 little busybodies behind this whole thing are people who ran for internal elections in the UNC, people who wanted to be on constituency executives, people who at one point in time felt that they were big time. There's a thing about people saying that, well, I am UNC and I am the UNC. Nobody is the UNC and nobody defines the UNC, and no member or supporter of the UNC is more important than the other. That's the other thing. We have a structure. The Women's Arm is a legitimate part of the structure of the party, and whatever they choose to protest about, nobody can come and dictate to us. Their issue was that the UNC, specifically the Women's Arm, and I don't know why they're targeting and following and stalking the Women's Arm, but their issue is that the Women's Arm is not dealing with the issue of and the plight of carrying workers who have not yet gotten their visa packages, their full visa package with respect to land, and that we should be speaking on that issue, not apparently other issues like prices, which I find is bold-facedness in the highest first to begin with. But secondly, what makes this the most hypocritical, dotish, I have to just say, I can't even find a better word for it, it's just plain out dotish for them to come there and protest against the UNC, is that when Patrick Manning was in government, there was no land given out. In fact, there was a court matter being appealed all the Privy Council, and it is under the partnership that we decided to start giving out the land.
Now, Senator, I do have to say this. I found the whole situation, the lead up to it, well, not the lead up, but what it was reported initially to be very dubious. The counter protests that had nothing to do with what the protest was about, which makes me very much question. However, I have to be fair. I have criticized government reactions to situations. I don't believe you were reported in this case, but some of your peers have had some very choice ways to say about the counter-protests. Not necessarily how you put it with regards to them having a direct reason to engage the UNC's women arm. But has there been any consideration? Because I believe that is the issue of what happened that day. But some of the reports now are going to be focused on the UNC's response. Has there been any consideration to not give any sort of validity to this thing? Because by using inflammatory remarks in response now, it has brought down a bit of scrutiny, at least in my opinion, or potentially, onto the UNC.
Oh, yeah, I get what you're trying to say. And the thing about it is, I think that for a very long time, the UNC has taken that approach. Don't give them attention. So people with 100 fake profiles and fake Facebook pages and all of this say the most disgusting, demeaning things about the UNC, attack us unfairly, attack our MPs, whether it's your personal life, your political life, your professional life, whatever it is. They attack you, they attack your families, and we always, well, don't give them attention. I think personally the time for that is long gone, and we have to stand up to this, because this is an extreme thing. I understand that the choice of language of some persons may not go over well with others, but listen, this is a country where prime ministers go on a political platform and mock people on the way that they speak because of the way that their voice sounds.
No,
again,
Senator, I totally get that, but I'm also, I mean, it's not only the opposition members that face this, members of parliament face this as well, where online that they're attacked by supporters of, well, those who have other political opinions. So it's not only the opposition members, but in politics, it's quite unfortunate, don't get me wrong, it is quite unfortunate, but in politics, this is why they say that you have to have a backbone, because as a member of the public, if you say something that people do not agree with or take your comments wrongly, you are going to face criticisms, and here in Trinidad and Tobago and through other places around the world, you are going to face such comments that are unnecessary.
We only say this because we have criticized the government for similar things, right? So,
but saying about backbone and so on, and let me tell you something. If the group that was there on Sunday want to go in any other part of the country and hold up signs cussing the UNC, Kamla, me, Bandana, anybody, you can say whatever you want about us, but do not come illegally and encroach upon a legal protest. We have to jump through hoops. I don't know if you recall, but we had one of our previous permission was not granted because it was Carnival Saturday when we had our initial thing planned. So we have to jump through hoops and get permission and do all kinds of things to be able to have these demonstrations. And you could just show up and assault us. I didn't get to the part of when we were walking away of a man, a big hardback man on a Sunday morning, pushing one of our councillors, ripping the sign out of her hand. It is captured there on film. And what is even more distasteful is that he went on social media afterwards to say that he said glad the media captured. It seemed like, and he called the person's name, she was whining back on him because like she had no carnival done. That is the level of this, how despicable these people are, right? And that is why I think, and why certain comments may have come from political platforms within the UNC, because you have to condemn people like this. You have to condemn
Senator,
them.
Can I just ask you, one of the protesters has alleged that the United National Congress's behavior was uncalled for in many ways as well, stating that it seems as though they became a bit, they became a bit violent as well. They were pushing back, they were being very rude. You mentioned that the UNC protesters at that time didn't allow the former Carney workers to block your placards, but they're stating that how they were being pushed, they were being manhandled, the language that was used. I know that there's one report of a police report against one particular member of parliament.
Police report, sorry, and let me just say, there's also a police report. We don't feel the need to go and run to the media and publicize everything, but one of our has made a police report as well against what happened.
That was reported though.
Okay, but it was there on video where a placard, a Karen, one of these ex-Karen worker, he looks like he's too young to even be born when Karen was in existence. I don't know who he is, but he ripped the placard out of her hand, and yes, she made a report as well. So it happened, in such a way that both. The thing about it is, why did you come into our space?
Yeah.
Why did you shove your way in front of the cameras whilst our member of parliament was speaking? Why did you feel the need to come and encroach upon our space and shout at us? We were not telling them anything. When they were standing on one side, we said nothing to them. They were standing there with their placards. We were doing our thing. The media was there interviewing our MP. We were going about our business. When we tried to walk away and leave them there to talk to the media and do whatever they wanted to do, they followed us and began, interfering. And that's where the placard was ripped out of Ryan's hand.
Well, Senator, I mean, again, I want to restate, I agree. They weren't even trying to counter-protest what you all were speaking about, which made the whole situation unnecessary on their end. However, we don't have too much time just yet, but we were supposed to ask, I believe the UNC is calling for the resignation of the Minister of National Security. Is this going to be something, is it just something that's been thrown out there in the moment, or is this going to be something that you will campaign on?
No, I think that time and time again, what we are seeing every single day, whether it is, gun violence, whether it is prisoners escaping, whether it is the fact that we are now hearing about millions and millions of dollars, and the Prime Minister, so desperate to deflect from his police service commission and scandal and the Paria matter, is saying that he's going after white collar crime, and there's not 35 million, but 18 million US dollars that he has spent. When to basically go on a political witch hunt, and when you call a police and they don't have any vehicles, so the whole operation and the whole the whole management of crime, and it's going to be dealt with, I believe, today in the House. There's it's private members there, and they will be dealing with a motion on crime. The whole management of crime and the crime situation in this country is a complete failure. And at the end of the day, the minister, although he doesn't seem to think that it's his responsibility to make citizens feel safe, the buck stops with him and the Prime Minister, of course, who has put him there. And I think that it's something that we have to continuously speak about. People in this country are fed up. I don't think that you can speak to any person right about now who will tell you that they are not worried about the crime situation. I read again a very sad story of a doubles vendor who operates at Piarco being killed yesterday. I've seen a woman being shot in Maruga. It's just every day. It's every day.
Senator, unfortunately, I do sorry I have to cut you, but that's all the time that we have for this morning. But thank you very much for joining us on the program. And need I say that when all is said and done, everybody has a right to protest. There is no need for these clashes. It is completely unnecessary. And we hope in future that something like this doesn't take place again. So you're allowed to protest, freedom of expression, but please, just be mindful that you can also behave in a certain manner.
And you can also protest anywhere else in the country except where the UNC is doing it.
All right, Senator Gentilashmina, thank you very much. Take care.
Bye.
Folks, WSN breaks for news on the hour, and when we return, we open up the phone lines this morning. Stay tuned.
Seven is out, all day is in. WESN News on the hour.
Every day, we communicate through stories. Stories of ourselves, our challenges, our goals, our experiences, and our aspirations. Storytelling is an art that we have mastered. WESN Film Studios comprises a collaborative team of experts with extensive industry experience locally, regionally, and internationally. The ability of your business to successfully communicate with your preferred audience depends on the strength of the stories you tell. Your vision should be communicated in a high-quality, professional, and creative way. From concept to post-production, advertising to film, multi-camera productions, live events, streaming, and virtual conferencing, we are WESN Film Studio. Let your own unique voice be heard and your vision realized. Call us today at 628-5835 for your next production.
In this season, we talk more about health, wellness, and everything in between. I am so excited to share with you everything about health and wellness so that you can design the life that you've always dreamed of. Join me here on What's Up Doc.
What's Up Doc? Tuesdays and Thursdays here on WESN, Content Capital.
Burning questions, urgent topics. Welcome back to One on One, the show where we tackle the most current and pertinent subjects that are affecting all citizens, where we ask the hard questions and have in-depth conversations. What separates One on One from other talk shows is that the conversation stems from a younger perspective on topics that affect the fabric of our society. One on One, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. on WESN Content Capital.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people. and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
A reminder from WESN. We urge you to protect yourself and others from the spread of COVID-19. Stay safe by taking some simple precautions. Clean your hands often. Use soap and water or an alcohol-based hand rub. Maintain a safe distance from anyone who is coughing or sneezing. Wear a mask. Don't touch your eyes, nose or mouth. Cover your nose and mouth with your bent elbow or a tissue when you cough or sneeze. Stay at home. If you have a fever, cough and difficulty breathing, seek medical attention. Following the above can help us all to help each other.
Welcome back to Talking Point here on WESN. Now we open the phone lines. Now, the question that we're asking this morning focuses on Vice President of Guyana, Barrow Jagdo's comments on TNT falling apart. Were his comments unfair? And now you are free to call in and comment on any other issues, but please be mindful of the time and please be considerate to other callers as well. Bear that in mind. But like I said, that's the question we're focusing on this morning. Good morning, caller from Pity Valley.
Good morning, Sean and Keaton.
Good morning.
I want to comment on the Vice President of Ghana's statement.
Yes.
First, I want to take it at this angle. I want to know what forum he was speaking at in terms of, was it foreign investors? If it was taking a shot at Trinidad to position Guyana as the new big kid on the block. Or was it political of their people and want to show their people in political terms, we now are the big kid on the block. So I want to know what forum he was pandering to. Number two, his statement was out of place and distasteful. But Trinidad is falling apart and jobs and those. I do agree that. You ever went to Ghana, Sean and Keaton?
No.
No, I've been to Ghana. Yeah.
Guyana is, they get a little oil now and must want to raise the tail. Ghana is a country in a mess, no jobs, poor poverty. So don't try to come and take a shot at Trinidad as if we falling apart. Three. You know how much Guyanese citizens living in Trinidad and Tobago?
About 10,000.
Hundreds and thousands.
About 10,000.
Who use our medical facilities, who we take care of them. So you have to be careful in political terms. There are a lot of Guyanese living in Trinidad here, years upon years. So I do agree to statement, and he was just taking a political shot and trying to raise their tails.
It was at a forum that included regional people from over the region, from what I understand. It was about oil and gas investment. It could be that he was just very careless and insensitive. I'm not sure what his intentions are, but I agree with you to the extent that yes, the fallout of his statements could have very negative connotations.
We have another caller.
And I would agree, Keaton, too, even though he wanted to say it and raise it, he could have said
a lot more diplomatically.
Yeah. I think the problem was he was trying to draw an example.
Caller, thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Linking our troubles to what we did not do with our oil and gas money, but the way how he did it, he should have been more diplomatic than that. It's one thing if I said something like that. He's the VP of Guyana. That's a different thing.
I do have some comments to make on your second point. I will do shortly, but I'd like to give this caller the opportunity. Good morning, caller from Digger Martin.
Right. Good morning, Mr. Shan.
Good morning.
Morning.
Right. The truth offense, and that is where I'm going with this Guyana rivalry. And it has some historical perspective. But let me come to the recent past. We had a PNM minister recently said the UNC did not win. You had a team of lawyers that went to Guyana to fight the election petition for Granger. You remember those? He had John Jeremy, I think he had the current AG, and he had the Port of Spain South. as the counselors for Granger in his petition. When the minister, Lovell Francis, made that racist statement, did our Prime Minister apologize to Ghana for that statement? No. So there is some, I wouldn't want to use bad blood within the rivalry, and I don't want it to go. But the historical perspective of it, Burnham did something to Ghana people that our first Prime Minister, in some way, and CARICOM by extension, never intervened. Burnham Chiran, whilst he was suffering in Trinidad, and a lot of Ghanaians came to Trinidad and was schooled at Bishop Ansey High School. They might have been a member of the Bishop Tea Party. People have to understand that. Burnham was kept in government by the CIA, paying $10,000 US a month. Did we support that by extension? Did Eric Williams benefit from the CIA? Because there is a historical perspective that the CIA did not want Russia or communists to, to prosper in the region. So it have a lot of bad blood. And it started when that particular minister said that racist statement, and we never apologized for it. And I say no more. I'm gone.
Thank you. I just want to go back to the first call and his second point. I have not been to Ghana in the last 10 years. The last time I went was about 10 years ago. And right now, Ghana does have a problem, as we would have witnessed in the last election, in terms of a racial divide. And that's not new. I mean, Trinidad and Tobago has a racial divide as well. And we must be realistic in recognizing and accepting it. Accepting it from the point of view that it exists, but not accepting that it should continue. We should end it. But before I get too carried away with that, Ghana, yes, there's a lot of poverty within the interior, but that is changing actually. That is changing dramatically. The infrastructure in Ghana is changing dramatically. It's very difficult now to get land in Ghana as you would have gotten it a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago, land in Ghana cost about 25,000 TT dollars for a lot. And I kid you not, now it's way over that. It's probably about 10 times the price. The point I'm making is that yes, your comments, your opinion, fair enough. But we must also be careful what we're stating. Ghana is doing very well. Yes, poverty exists in many areas, but that is changing, and the infrastructure is also changing.
I think the key is Guyana is now looking at growth. And even if they haven't taken all the oil out, people are anticipating the growth. So investment is going to happen. Now, I could understand part of what the Guyana Vice President said, because it was basically saying we have to reinvest the oil money into other things and not just be caught with day-to-day expenditures and trying to enrich the people with variable cost expenditures.
Which can be deemed as taking a lesson from Trinidad and Tobago.
Right, but I agree that he should have said it in a better way because he is the vice president of the country. Now,
which I agree with as well.
Do I agree that we are in a mess? I would not necessarily say that we are in a mess entirely because of the fault of our own. Granted, we have criticized how the economy is being managed in TNT. But we've had the pandemic, 1, and 2. Things have not fallen apart. You could argue that, yes, we're seeing signs that things could fall apart, but things are not falling apart.
Anyway.
Right? If things were falling apart, trust me, Keaton and I will be having a lot different conversations on a morning than what we have right now. Right? Things are being held together, maybe by string and bubble gum, but right now they're still together.
Why is it being held together by string and bubble gum?
We've had a pandemic. A lot of other countries are in debt. Like, I understand we disagree with some of the policies of the government, but we can't be Peter crying wolf at every little thing.
The pandemic exacerbated pre-existing conditions.
Yes, I know.
Is it becoming more of an excuse now? I mean, I'm not trying to shy away from what the pandemic did and what it created besides the virus. But,
let's put it this way. Just because it could be used, just because it might have been an excuse for some things doesn't mean it's an excuse for everything that they say. That it's not, it could be that some of these things they use it and it's irrelevant, and other things it is very relevant.
Anyway, we do have a call on the line from Shagonas. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning,
Professor.
I must say I was amazed at Mrs. Teixeira's attempt to say you don't need annual administrative report, and you could go to the National Institute of Statistics. She may not be aware, but we have no National Institute of Statistics. The legislation went before a joint select committee, and as far as I know, they haven't reported. We still have the Central Statistical Office, and up to last month, the head of there have been requesting more information and statistics from government departments. And historically, that have been supplied by the annual administrative reports. Any questions, gentlemen, or you wait till I hang up on them?
No, I have no questions, but it just seems as though I know you're constantly speaking about the annual administrative report and constantly have comments with Mr. Scherer, but I mean, it seems as though you are aware of one thing and she's aware of another.
It could be that.
So I don't know if anything had changed when she was in office. I don't know if her experience was different, but
that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if information channels, the types of reports used, they would change. Maybe sometimes they thought it was for the better. Maybe sometimes they thought they would change so that they could manipulate the information easier. So it could have been for good or for ill. But I do wonder, particularly that, and as now Karen hasn't been in office for 10 to 12 years, 12 years?
Almost.
About that, right? That it could have changed again, because we've seen the government or successive governments or the public sector change things around, change the bureaucracy, the administration, the reporting system, etc., etc. So things like that I could see as being quite pertinent, and that could be, as you said, more or less that's where the difference of their opinion lies.
But I'll tell you, caller from Chaguanas, that Karen Scherer is very careful what she says, and she does not come on this program without doing her research or without verifying or checking things. And she often says this. She says, "Don't misquote me, and I don't want to state otherwise. I need to verify. I need to do more research or get more information." So, so bear that in mind as well. But thank you very much for your call and for having your opinion heard.
But want to go back to Chaguanas, because you keep saying administrative reports, and I agree with you. The root cause is not necessarily the report itself, but whatever that structure is for reporting, for transparency, it begs the question, what is not being done correctly on that axis? Because at the end of the day, and again, how much is not reported in enough detail or with enough detail in Parliament so that it could then, become public knowledge? Why is it that we have to try to hold leaders into account, whether it is the government or the opposition? Because both sides make claims, right? But particularly, obviously, the government, whenever it is anything is being done, whichever term it is, without transparent information. The irony, of course, is the lack of transparency for whatever reason. It could be bad bureaucracy, as I keep saying. Don't discount the inefficiencies of the bureaucracy of our government, which is not to do with the political elected officials, but to do with the employees of the public sector. And yes, you might say I'm bashing that segment of the population, but it is what it is. More or less, we praise any little improvement in efficiency in the public sector. Why? Well, because it's so inefficient and it's so ingrained into our national consciousness that it's almost like if we accept it, and I don't know if we properly have tried to improve it.
Just to shift a little bit, you mentioned the Central Statistical Office, and I've often visited their website, and I have to tell you, it's an issue that I have, and this is where we go back to getting information. The CSO does not update their website often, even if they do the surveys, which I'm not entirely sure that they have been doing. I'll give you a prime example: death and mortality statistics. We were speaking about mortality over the COVID-19 pandemic. Do you want to know, before this pandemic started, the last time we had an update?
I won't be surprised. It could be more than 5 years.
The statistics on this actually are from 2012 to 2018.
Okay.
Right? Marriage statistics, again, 2015 to 2018. I'm not entirely sure that is important, but I'm just giving you an example.
The irony is systems with regards to reporting structure and lines of communication, organizational charts of various bodies, they change. Investment in new technology seems to be something that is almost never a part of that change. Or if they invest in new technology, it's basically similar to a business that doesn't know what they're doing. They kind of get a computer and they tell a guy, hey, we want to put everything on this one computer. It's like, that's not a system. You just have a computer. That's not a system, that's just a website. And if you don't have these systems around the website, it's just a website that could do nothing for you.
Now, you will be happy to note though, Sean, that they do have statistics up to 2020 on tourists and traveling to Trinidad and Tobago. So,
yeah, it's not that hard. We don't have that much tourists. There's not much to count.
Anyway,
if you could count it on one hand, it's not statistically that important.
We do have a call on the line from Tigger Martin. Good morning.
Morning, Sam.
Morning.
You have time for 2 questions?
Go for it.
Sure.
Okay, cool. So, we saw on Wednesday Madeleine Albright died.
Yes.
So, of course, we know she was well known for strategy and all of that. But besides that, for something, a little funny, was for her accessories, the way she dressed and so. And she wore these pins or brooches, as we call them, as a diplomacy tool. So this started because at the end of the World War, Keaton was a baby, Sean would have been a little boy. Saddam Hussein, and they were back and forth with all this bad talking her and everything, of course, because she had to maintain sanctions. They referred to her as an unparalleled serpent. Funny, yesterday that minister used the same word, that's weird. She happened to have a serpent pin, and she wore it. So she found that was kind of funny. So that started her trend of read my pin. So say when she was talking to a dictator in North Korea, she wore a huge U.S. flag. When Russia was bugging the State Department, nothing like now, she wore a huge bug pin to talk to the foreign minister. And he totally got it. Michelle Obama, she wore bright and conventional sleeveless clothes all the time. So even with our own leaders and public figures, we can sometimes get an insight into their mood or their thoughts and feelings. So here are the questions after
Well,
that
we
long
only have
thing.
time for one question. We do have another caller.
No, I'll do it real fast.
Yeah.
Who is very relieved and happy when we're almost open? Kamala Prasad Bisesa, Nyan Gatsby Dolly, or Mariam Richards?
Oh, wow.
Well, I guess the trick
I would
question
go with
might
all
be...
three. All of the above.
Mariam Richards,
Mariam
because she wore
Richards.
a matching black mask with paillettes, which are sparkly things. How do we know where the country is heading? Al-Rawi's unbuttoned shirt, in National Security Minister's long hair and his white shirts, or Keith Rowley?
I want to see how
all of the above.
It's all of the above, but here's the thing. Keith Rowley, the answer to all the daily questions, speculations, uncertainty, mystery reshuffles, they lie in his socks.
Oh,
he wears
Lord.
red and blue puzzle pieces, which he wore for his
You are
conversation
very
with
observant,
Marvin.
Martin. Very observant.
He always wore black checkered shirts, but his socks would be, that's the reason why everything is an enigma, in a mystery, in a puzzle in this country.
Thank
Keith
you.
Rowley socks.
Thank you, Kwan.
I've heard some great theories in my time, and that is you're very, very observant.
I am very thankful she cannot see my socks. Very thankful.
I am very thankful as well. Anyway, good morning, caller from Currap.
Oh, we might have lost the
We
caller.
may have lost that caller.
We're very sorry.
Yeah,
We're very sorry.
623-9376, 622-9338. We do have enough time for a couple more calls.
One thing I'd like to point out, we didn't necessarily have time, the land situation, I think, we do kind of want to see how that unfolds. It's very, very concerning because of the accusations level that a permanent secretary was involved. I do find it interesting, though, that we do have one situation where the land situation, you have people from the former administration saying, well,
I'll tell you what I find interesting.
Okay,
but we do have a caller from Currap. Good morning, caller.
Oh, my word. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
The committee which was established by the Prime Minister pertaining to the COVID deaths. Actually, what become of that committee? Because I am very interested to know why doctors in Arima Hospital has been giving injection to patients with COVID, putting them into a coma and they never get out and end up dying. So we want to know what is happening with that committee and why would the doctors in Arima put people into a coma when you cannot come out from a coma?
Well,
and they are not losing their lives in Arima Hospital.
Kola, you have experience with the doctors in Arima inducing, comatizing a patient?
So my brother-in-law wife was in the hospital. My brother-in-law was in the hospital. They both died with COVID. That's what they say. But she was in the thing for breathing, and apparently she was not responding properly, and they gave her an injection which put her into a coma.
Do you know exactly what the injection was? I'm so sorry for your loss, and I'm sorry to bombard you with questions, but I just want a better understanding. By any chance, do you know what the injection was?
Actually, I'm not saying it properly, but I know that the patients who die at the Arima Hospital, they all marking COVID when it's not so.
Well, okay, so
that's interesting. Kola,
I believe
we'll respond off air, but thank you.
Yeah, I believe the report was given out, and for the most part, it said that the reports, by their estimation or by their reckoning, was accurate. So whoever was reported of dying to COVID, they believe died from COVID. Now, with regards to the induced coma, I think, I'm not sure, no, Arima is not Cuba. So I'm not sure if Arima dealt with some of the worst cases, but right. So, no, what I mean to say, Cuba dealt with usually the worst cases of COVID, right? The most severe. So with regards to inducing a coma, if that's what they were doing, I do believe that is usually a measure that, well, you don't necessarily want to do it for anything relatively simple. It's a more desperate measure. So it could be that the individuals were critical. They tried a last-ditch attempt to save them, and it did not work. Therefore, they passed away. I'm not sure if they passed away because a coma was induced.
All right,
that's all speculation on my part based on limited information.
I'm going to try and reach out to a medical practitioner. There are a few who I actually trust who will try and share information with me. I'll try and get some more to better understand that, see what they're saying. But as Sean, you pointed out, the committee, in terms of the deaths, they did release the report. I do have a copy of the entire report. And for the most part, in our investigations here on Talking Point, because for those who were not aware, Sean and I were actually working with our director behind the scenes in relation to investigating, COVID-19 in Trinidad. And for the most part, the information that we got from doctors on the ground in Cuba from the time this started was that from all his understandings, from what he was aware of, what he was dealing with.
Because he gave the information.
And what was being said, the information was accurate. I do know that the hospitals do induce comas depending on how much of a strain is placed on the body by the infection. That may be the case, but I don't want to assert at this point that the individuals died because they were injected with something that put them into a coma. We do express our condolences to you on the loss of your brother and your wife. We are sorry, but we will try and get more information, and perhaps next week we'll be able to share it with you. But that's it for now, Sean. That seems to be it for the rest of the week.
Just a quick point with regards to the land fraud again. Former PP ministers say they weren't aware of any land fraud when they were there of agriculture. Prime Minister said, well, we have no ministers named in these accusations, and also there's a fund to investigate white-collar crime from the PP's administration. So essentially, we have both political parties pointing at each other saying, you are the source of corruption, or you are the instigators or perpetrators of white-collar crime. I find that very interesting.
Why not investigate both then?
Listen, this is where, and this is why Gary is a bit hypocritical when he said he was cleaning up the TTPS and has now been accused of corruption in the TPPS himself, indirectly, or you could say directly. When do political parties, when are they willing to investigate their own?
Is that Friday trivia? My thing that I found interesting was that the Prime Minister stated that from as early as 2015, the then Minister of Agriculture was reporting to him of cases of land fraud. So if you
I don't believe the claims of You mean to say, because I think Vasa Marat was very diplomatic. He said, well, I heard things, but nothing substantive.
Put it this way.
Why didn't you investigate and make sure?
Put it this way. The Prime Minister said from as early as 2015, I was told about this by the then minister. I gave him advice. He followed the advice. As far as I am aware, the infamous line,
6 years?
As far as I'm aware, to my knowledge.
6 years. So as much as I don't believe the former PP Ministers of Agriculture, 6 years?
Anyway, folks, let's not get too caught up in that. That's the end of Talking Point for today, and that's the end of Talking Point for this week. Thank you very much to all our callers, to Senator Jayantee Lakshmi-Dayal, who joined us on the program this morning. And, of course, you can always look for Simone, the Content Capital, at 10 o'clock this morning. You can join Andy Johnson for 10 questions. Sean, great week, and, well, in terms of the discussion, not in terms of the happenings, but definitely looking forward to next week.
A lot is happening, and less would mean we have less to talk about, but some things I really would hope I could. Please keep praying for Ukraine, just for that situation to end. I don't think there'll be any winners of that war, only civilians who have to count the losses.
And, well, who knows, Trinidad and Tobago maybe opening up fully soon. So if you get an announcement, as of midnight tonight, it will be Saturday. Anyway, folks, we'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.